Here Comes the Guillotine contains offensive language, mature content, and adult themes. It is not suitable for a younger audience.
This is a Global Player original podcast.
Hello and welcome to Here Comes the Guillotine. I'm Frankie Boyle and I'm going to be talking to Susie McCabe and Christopher MacArthur Boyd.
Both those glasses are Christopher's because he's got herpes.
I don't have herpes. I have a slight cold sore, which is herpes. Sadly.
That is herpes. What's happening at the old COVID inquiry? Anything?
Speaking of diseases.
Speaking of diseases.
Important that we learn the lessons of COVID. What were they?
Not to get caught having a party.
Execute our political class.
Me and my friends should be executed. Spare our families, but spare the country. Old sir. He's got such a fucking wee horrible voice.
Rishi, I
Yes.
hate the way when he done that press conference about the second Rwanda plan, and he was like, "So this is what I'm going to do, right? This is what, right? Yeah, right." And then
Right.
the journalist kept asking him questions like, "Oh, you know, what about this and what about that?" And he was like, "Well, have you asked the Labour Party what they're doing?" And it's like, well, no, because the Labour Party didn't call a press conference, you fucking twonk.
Yeah.
Honestly, very
I watched him
annoys
give
me.
that speech about, we're going to stop the boats.
Right, we're going to stop the boats. Right, yeah, hear me out. He just talks. Do you know what my problem with Sunak, right? More than probably any other Conservative leader is the fact that he comes across as a man to me who has never heard the word no. Do you know what I mean?
Sexually?
On any level.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, no.
He's just never heard the word no. And when he starts to get questioned and people have got something to say or ask him, he gets very shirty. Thank you. As if to be like, well, no. Right, I'll tell you how it is because I'm me and, you know, I'm much wealthier and I'm much more intelligent, and how dare you question me? I hate the way
He gets aggressively defensive under this mildest question. It's going to be an amazing election because Starmer is like a kind of Pinocchio experiment. And he's like just an awful kind of human virus. And that's your choices. And whoever the Lib Dem one is, he's just this like, this kind of void.
Human void.
Ed Davey. Just like, it's like someone,
Two first names.
Bertie Wooster is trying to help get out of an engagement.
I just, like, it's that thing with Sunak. Honestly, I actually think more than any other Tory in my lifetime who's been Prime Minister, I just think, no, you are a horrible, entitled little man who doesn't like to hear the words, you are wrong. Like, Johnson was a grifter. Johnson was a media personality. Johnson just done whatever he had to do for Johnson. And in a way, you go, well, do you know what? He didn't hide it, right? We all know exactly. If you've been paying attention, you know exactly what that toad is. Truss was so blinded by her own political philosophy that she couldn't see anything else. Theresa May's your kind of old school small C Tory, and Cameron's just your entitled Etonian. But you know exactly what all of them are. Whereas Rishi standing there, you know, like he stood at that thing, and one of his opening gambits was, I'm the son of immigrants. And you're like, oh, fucking here we go. You're the son of an immigrant or an immigrant family who worked as professionals, and you went to a private school in one of the most exclusive universities in the world. Don't make out that your dad was working on the buses. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't try and play that card because you're not that guy. And I just find him repulsive.
He's like, so there's all these different elements to the Tory party and different bits of them are in power at different points, but it's tended, like in modern history, towards the kind of financial side of it, the side of it that represents the financial sector. There's all these other ones that would have, in the old days, like Michael Heseltine or someone who represented the industrial manufacturing base of Britain or whatever, and they were all kind of dreadful on some level.
But once
this
they
is
get rid
the
of that
worst.
manufacturing base, there was no need for Michael Heseltine.
Yeah. But now this guy's just full on, I represent
The wealth.
capital.
I
I
am a
represent Moloch.
Yeah.
I am the emissary of Moloch.
Yeah.
And he's like this horrible little kind of Rumpelstiltskin kind of figure.
And also,
An
he
imp.
has no desire for, like, Thatcher was all about the business and the capitalism. Heseltine was your manufacturing and your industry. And the Conservative Party used to actually be about growth and small business and opportunity and whatever else like that kind of brings with it. But they're not now. It's about preserving wealth.
I think they've always been evil cunts.
Yeah.
I think there's a danger of going, well, in the past they were alright. Now it's back as they've always been fucking dragging people.
Can I put another point of view to you? If we were ruled over by a fifth dimensional imp,
Yeah.
people wouldn't say, wait a minute, that's an imp. Why is he much smaller than a normal person? Why is he much thinner than a normal person? Why does he speak like an aggrieved, entitled aristocrat from the fairy realm? And yet that is what Sunak is.
That is.
If you said Rishi Sunak's name backwards, he would disappear.
Well, I don't say it because I've not even worked out what it is, because it might be some kind of curse. It's not,
Canish. Irish.
Can I just clarify that I wasn't in any way glorifying previous Conservative
no, we
leaders?
didn't think you were.
I
just
was-
wanted to chat about fifth dimensional imps.
I was happy with the fifth dimensional imps, but I feel that I need to defend myself in the sense that I wasn't glorifying them, going, oh, they used to be about this. In a good way, I'm saying, well, that's what they were about. And they used to say to people, oh, you can have a small business and you can be this. And now they're just like, you lot can fuck off. We are taking all the money.
Aye. They should all be burned alive, except the dead ones, who should be burned dead.
I don't think Thatcher would burn.
Oh, I think she would go off like fucking plutonium. A mushroom cloud.
A
couldn't have
radioactive
cremated
bomb
her.
woman. They would have to bury her under loads of lead, surely, to keep it inside.
A lead line coffin.
Have you saw, what was that thing? It was like a big field in America, and they'd buried radioactive isotopes underneath it, and it was like a big, but it looked like the type of thing where made me worry about Egyptology, because it looked like the type of thing where if you saw that in Egypt, you'd dig up and go, oh, there must be some good gear in there.
But this is a whole school of linguistics, of how do you warn people of the future. So they've got all these warnings on radioactive material that's designed for, what if in 200 years' time people have lost language? What's the most primal kind of warning symbols that we can create? And maybe that is what the Egyptian hieroglyphs really were.
If you had a massive statue of a lion with a man's face, why are you going in there? It's not
True.
going to be good in there.
True.
It's going to be the curse of the pharaohs.
Or it could be Frosties. You know what I mean? What an Indiana Jones that would have been, man.
If there was loads of cereal inside the pyramids. Yeah. But a lot of people die. A lot of people do die when they go into pyramids because of the curse of the pharaohs.
So the Egyptians did believe in life after death.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Christianity, as we've discussed previously on the pod. Where there
Listen
wasn't-
to earlier episodes to hear our thoughts on Christianity.
Or not.
They would leave stuff that you would take to the afterlife. So here's all this stuff. You're going to need a chariot. You're going to need this, that, and the other. We've packed your pyramid with all the kind of goodies.
Mm-hmm.
What would you take to the afterlife?
What would I take personally? I would take Christopher.
Thank you.
Um,
We've already been to Grimsby.
I would take possibly a Switch. I don't know how exciting it's going to be there.
Is there Wi-Fi though? Because a lot of these games, you
Well-
need connection to the internet to play them. So you don't want to bring your Switch front-loaded with Fortnite as you want to play.
This
Then you get
this
you can't
question
play
is
it.
exactly why priesthoods form. Because
Yeah.
the minute you start having the idea of, there's going to be an afterlife, someone goes, well, is there going to be Wi-Fi? And then the priest class emerges and go, there will be Wi-Fi.
There will be Wi-Fi
Slip
beyond.
the priest a fiver. Do you remember having to put a fiver in a mass card? Do you remember that?
To
You
who?
had to bribe the priest. You go to his house, his manse, and like your mum's pal would have died, and
The
you would
chapel house.
you would have a
little envelope.
a little mass card with a picture on it, and it would have a fiver in there, and he would just.
Yep.
Aye, okay.
What
I'll
did
ask
it-
God then.
I remember organising a family member's funeral, and the priest turned round and said in front of the grieving daughter, "So, are they like a full season ticket holder? Like, are we talking body in the chapel the night before, and then requiem mass, burial, or do they not really believe in you're just wanting all the faff?" And it was like, we would just quite like a Catholic service. And they're like, now, are we just talking service in the chapel on the day, or are we doing like the full warm up beforehand? This was genuinely the priest. And I'm like, what is even going on here?
It's a fair question.
He doesn't have much to do. A couple of services at the weekend, the odd confession, just get
You
it
think
done.
he should have known already if she was a real deal Catholic?
Well, he's there as well.
Yeah,
Well,
Okay, what you tell me? You're the priest.
you'd know her
aye.
if you knew her.
Also, I remember organising my grand's funeral, and I kind of picked the hymns and all that and the readings, and the priest just turned round to me and went, "Cranking hymns." As if I'd put a playlist together on Spotify, just like, cranking hymns. They're cranking. They're old school. And I'm
What
like,
was the selection?
so on Eagle's Wings,
Right.
that was one of the communal hymns. The other communal hymn was the month of May, because my gran was born.
By Arcade Fire?
No, they was very much. She was not an Arcade Fire fan. More of a Daniel O'Donnell, and he never done any covers. So there was that. There was a wee bit of "Walk with Me, Oh My Lord." Oh, what a banger!
That's a banger.
How's
It's a
that
tune.
go? Walk with me, my lord.
No, that's a bit too happy. That's very, very Protestant there. That's
Oh, my Proddy hymns are all like,
You've
he's
thrown
got
it
the
around.
whole wide world in his hands. He's
There's
got
a
the
lot
whole-
less country swing. Catholic service.
it is not the Grand Old Opry. A Catholic.
Maybe
mass.
that's where my love of country came from, was my Protestant upbringing.
A wee bit of
my
Sunday school.
non-denominational church mode.
I don't think you can get a non-denominational church.
Tell that to fucking Gary Hill Primary. Because they were packing us into that church up
And
the
of
Muir
the-
Memorial.
Of
you
the
know.
Muir Memorial. Well, that would then indicate it was not non-denominational.
That's what my dad says.
Denominational.
What are you going to do?
If you don't know if you're a Catholic or not, you're a Proddy.
I went
Like-
to chapel a few times, but it
know.
was shite.
No
It's no
way.
offence, but it was shite when I got there.
On comparison, I mean, chapel's a show. I mean, it's a show of.
Yeah, there was a lot of symbolism that was lacking in Muir Memorial Church, but I just felt like the only day I liked was Pancake Day. I went to chapel for Pancake Day. Big table full of pancakes and venison. That was good. That considered.
But not Ash Wednesday.
Not Ash Wednesday, where, some of the population had to run through the streets without getting a doing because we had
We
ashes
got
on our head.
marked.
You
Right.
get
Ashes.
marked out.
like Cain.
Yeah, no, it was from
The wrestler.
ashes you come, and into ashes you will return. Is a reminder of
Yes.
death.
Memento Mori.
You're
Cheers.
10. You're 10
Holy
years
cow.
old.
You need to learn someday. But you're
Oh,
gonna
you're
die.
taught that from a very early age, aren't you?
It's old news by the time you get to Ash Wednesday, mate.
Catholicism's kind of death worship, isn't it? It's kind
A
of
death cult.
A death
Aye,
cult, yeah.
aye. They do like a good death. I mean, I know a lot of people that come from big families, big Catholic families.
Is that a euphemism? He came from a big family.
Aye.
Is that a euphemism?
Came from a big family and they're like, oh, old Uncle Tommy died. Can't wait for this funeral. What a laugh we're going to have. Because there is an element of that, isn't there? The sitting round the
It's
body.
been good to see everybody, other than one person. Good to see everybody again.
Aye, like rosaries. That's a weird thing in the house.
Every time I go to a funeral, somebody's like, it shouldn't take a death for us all to see each other. And then the next time you see them is another funeral. Yeah. your dream funeral scenario?
Oh, yes.
I think quite a bit of reggae.
Nice.
And then the church is sealed, much in the style of an Egyptian pharaoh. And the sand starts to pour in. Gather my enemies there.
Just enemies?
Just enemies.
Right.
Seal it up.
You're not worried that maybe the Egyptians had it right and that means that you'll need to spend afterlife hanging around with your enemies?
They need to spend the afterlife hanging around with me. The Watchman response.
Yeah. You, as Rorschach said, you're not... I'm not to your funeral.
What's your ideal funeral?
Leonard Skinner's Freebird plays on loop. It's a 9-minute song, so that won't get annoying. The streets are just lined.
All right, Princess Diana.
I want a proper procession down the street, like banners on my face, like a fucking Turkish politician up on the walls.
The fuck are you, Stalin?
Slung in a potato sack in a fucking hole in the fucking ground out in the woods somewhere.
And then what happens?
Buried like a
Doesn't
cat.
matter.
I'm dead.
Just
I don't
buried
give
like
a
a
shit.
cat.
I don't want any fucking like, oh, let's all wear nice bright colours to remember Chris. No, everybody's wearing black. Everybody's depressed. It's good.
I want to be flushed down a bog by a gay maniac.
I can probably make it happen. I know a few.
yeah.
I know a
What's that
few.
guy's name? Nielsen, the Scottish guy.
Is that?
Oh,
One of the rare Scottish serial killers who penetrated national consciousness. He
It's the sad thing about
was
it.
a gay dude obsessed with death, and he lived in Muswell Hill, and he used to get young rent boys to come round and he'd get them to pose as a dead body. And there was a thing on ITV
should have been
about
a
it, which
giveaway.
they obviously buried because they should never have shown it. But there was like some tapes of him doing this, and he was like, "No, act dead, stop fucking moving," and a real horrible Bammy voice.
Yeah.
But then he'd drug murder, dismember, cook them, and then pour the stuff down the drains. But
He wasn't
his
even-
drains,
what was he
his drains
cooking
really
it for?
smelled.
Well, he used to be a chef in the army, so clearly he thought, wait a minute, I've got this skill that I can apply to this other skill what I've got for murdering.
And that's where a lot of good art comes from, is coming from two different disciplines and merging them for the first time.
Absolutely.
You know, the way Thin Lizzy combined Wishbone Ash's guitar play with kind of Irish folk melodicism.
He was the Thin Lizzy of homosexual,
Aberdeenshire.
cannibalistic serial killer.
He was the Phil Lynott.
He
If
was,
he'd cleared his drains, he could have got away with it for decades.
if he had phoned Dynarod, if you want to sponsor this podcast.
Mr. Muscle.
He was from Aberdeenshire, and I think he joined the army, didn't he? But when he was 12, a relative died. I can't remember if it was his grandmother or grandfather, but one of them, whatever one was still alive, showed him the dead body, and this kind of stayed with him. Then he was in the army, because bear in mind he was closeted because you couldn't come out in the forces or anything like that.
Just so you know.
And then he went to London, and obviously the old homosexuality was still quite underground, and it was in Soho, and he would prey on rent boys or just transient men who were
Right.
just cutting through London. But so what happened was they went to his house, there was a terrible smell for the drains, and they were like, Sam, smells like decomposing bodies, doesn't it? Like, is it
In
a
his
dead rat or
drain,
something? And he was like, well, you know how it is.
Oh, these London.
Then they went into the fridge.
Pipes are
Was there
like-
not a head in the fridge? Something like that? Or in the freezer? There's body parts as well.
Can't remember the details. We could get the old Google up.
I mean, can't remember the deals. Is your ideal way to die is to be bog flushed by this guy?
Why not? Do you know what I mean? You're dead anyway. Who cares? Let
just-
this guy have his fun.
You're going to be dead a lot longer than you are alive.
Did they not used to do things to their dead body as well?
I bet he didn't just go, well, that's that done.
He would sometimes kill them during sex as well, though,
Oh,
wouldn't he?
come on.
Well,
That's
that
the
didn't
thing
happen.
about shagging somebody up the arse is you can get away with a lot because they're looking the other way.
You're already getting away with a lot.
Hold on.
I would argue.
What? You can get away with a
In
lot.
theory, you're getting away with a lot because they're looking that way. So you can be grabbing things off of shelves and bashing heads in and all this type of malarkey. I'd imagine. I've never heard of this guy.
But you've
Use two of
imagined
the
it.
experts on this
You've
guy.
imagined it.
I'm having to because I'm speaking to you. This isn't something I come up with in my day-to-day life.
I love how you're talking about anal sex.
I find it difficult to get into the mindset of an anal murderer.
As if it's a mafia murder. You're like, I mean, you could just garrot them from behind.
Well, you know, Tony Soprano. I don't want to spoil anybody who's not as far into the Sopranos journey as me, but there is definitely that bit where somebody's cooking their breakfast and Tony just whacks him in the head. You know, that old guy who gets sent as an assassin by one of the Apriles. He takes advantage of somebody's distraction. Listen, I'm just trying to understand where you two are coming from.
We're not coming from
You're the
the
one
same
that
place
started
as you.
plotting an anal assassination.
I feel like it wasn't me, but maybe it was.
See,
I'm
when
just saying, if you're shacking something up your arse, you can get away with some
Next
stuff.
podcast, we're going to get a jiu-jitsu instructor to break this down for us.
The first ever 4D podcast. You can look at this website and we'll break it down frame by frame how you could get away with anal killing.
I think he got away with a lot anyway. Killed a lot of people. Flushed them down one drain, you know. And that led to his undoing.
What about you? What's your dream funeral, Susie?
don't know, man, just...
Very Catholic.
Everybody in a Fred Perry singing the Stone Roses.
That was your wedding.
That was my wedding. That was me, my wedding.
Can it be a wedding? Your funeral be the same?
Listen, I'm alright with that.
What about being given the next COVID, then fired from a cannon into the camp of your enemies?
Fired from a cannon.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Just fuming with viral payload.
Did anybody ever do that as kind of chemical warfare? And...
There was lots of early chemical warfare which was largely revolved around shit. So they put shit on their arrows.
Yeah.
Because they knew that people got infected from that. And they would fire diseased animals into cities that were under siege.
Siege warfare. Like a syphilitic goat would be catapulted over the wall.
Imagine you were in a town where you'd never really heard of that kind of stuff. You're like, I wonder what the first move's going to be. And there's your syphilitic goat. Comes flying.
Landing in the town square.
Shit,
Is
the
it a
arrow
bird?
hits you in the thigh.
Next thing you know, you get one leg. And you've shagged a goat for some reason, so you get syphilis.
You're very...
No, I'm not.
A lot of that chat could on today.
No, can you get syphilis from other ways?
So a lot of listeners out there are going to be like, I'm just having sex in missionary from now on because I'm too
Christopher's out there.
Do you know what?
vulnerable.
There's people not even going to, going to a doggy position or anything.
It's kind of like how people didn't want to take a shower after they saw Psycho. People wouldn't want to be having doggy style sex after listening to this podcast because they'll be too afraid of what could happen.
If they're getting pegged.
They've had doggy style sex after the first 7 episodes, but now they don't like.
Now they are saying
Now they're in separate rooms.
front, cowgirl, missionary, some others, but not dog style. I don't know about my dream funeral. I think definitely big banners on the streets with my face as big as possible, bigger than I've ever been. You know, huge banners, preferably from when I was young.
I would like them to have, at my funeral, like, a really good buffet.
What would you want in your buffet, your funeral?
Chicken pakora.
Agreed.
Chicken wings.
The one similarity between your
Your funeral.
Stone Roses funeral and my dictator funeral.
Joseph Stalin funeral.
What about you eaten by a lion and then they have one of those grids in a field and there's all numbers on it and people have got a number, your friends and family, and whenever it kind of shits your skull out,
Yeah.
that's the winner and they inherit your wealth.
So like
Interesting.
somebody would try and fix it. You know, they would be whispering stuff to the lion. Go up to the corner. Go up to the corner.
It'd be me and Frankie trying to fix it. He'd be whispering to the lion and I'd have a bit of steak at the corner, like, right, Frankie.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you'd meat juice a few of those squares, wouldn't you? Meat juice and kind of lion sex hormone. I don't know how easy it is to get hold of that. But
Just like a big bit of catnip for a lion. Just a lion
fucking
lying on
cricket
its
ball of
back.
catnip.
Just like,
Excuse me, Frankie, I see you've been Googling lion sex hormone. This has nothing to do with Christopher's recent death, does it?
No, I see the well reading in Blair Drummond's.
What's that called? A quadrangle? When you have an area of land that is divided into different things for scientific purposes. Is that a quadrangle or a quadrank?
I think a quadrangle is like a university courtyard, isn't it?
Right. Okay.
But that
Don't
might
know what I was
indeed-
thinking there.
That might indeed be a better place to release the lion.
Yeah. I walk through the university quite a lot and I like it. I think it's a good vibe. I'm not looking forward to aging out of it. I've hit 30, but I'm quite a youthful 30. I wear baggy trousers, so I can kind of get away with it. But I'm not looking forward to walking through a university and people are looking at me going, you should be here.
they'll just think you're a professor.
Yeah, I guess it's you go straight. Is there a gap between you could be a student to you could be a professor?
You've got to have some of the characteristics of a professor. I just look like
Go
I'm
ahead.
about to ask someone to help me to load a sailboat into my Volkswagen. Have that kind of.
There used to be a professor of languages who drank in the gay bar that I worked in the late 90s. And you didn't know that they were a professor of languages because you only ever seen them in the pub in their cross dress. And they went by the name of Betty Hutton, right? And Betty Hutton's quite legendary. So when I worked in the pub, you'd need to train a new member of staff and say, listen, this person's going to come in and ask for a wee sherry. They'll be the only person that asks for a wee sherry. And by that, they don't mean a small sherry. They mean hosting pills in a glass. Right?
Hosting pills?
Hosting pills. It was like a Pilsner lager. It was back out in the day.
Pills? I thought they were asking for a big glass full of medicine.
And they were like, they looked a very particular way, right? And they'd come in with two of their friends and they'd come up to the bar and they used to have sayings. They'd say to the bar staff, oh, you're a big boy for 12 and all that kind of stuff, right? And there was this particular day that the bold Betty came in and asked for a wee sherry, and a member of staff hadn't been trained on the Pilsner.
Right.
Asked for a wee sherry. They poured a small sherry and it was bounced down the bar subsequently, right? But the most famous Betty story of all was Betty outside Bennett's nightclub one night, wrecked, and the police van comes up outside and goes, right, you're drunk, we're going to lift you. What's your name? And they went, Betty Hutton. Went, no. What's your real name? This is like
Come on.
the mid to late 90s, so it's not a good time.
Somebody's asking for a sherry glass off the head with that kind of power.
You're not wrong. And then, what's your name? Right, Betty Hutton. And the two coppers went, see for the last time, what's your last name? And she went, oh, Elizabeth Hutton, officer, right? Fired in the back of the van. Then on another occasion appears in court for some sexual nonsense outside and goes in full Betty Hutton
More
dress.
details, please.
That is not edible. We'll discuss that over lunch. So appears in court and the sheriff's like, what's your name? And it's like Betty Hutton, and in full Betty Hutton outfit. And they're like, you're coming in here dressed like that and addressing my court like that. How dare you? A man in a dress. To which Betty replied, hark at you sitting there with your wig and your frock on, and was then fired into Berlin for 5 days. And Betty was a professor of languages. Wow. Aye, you would never have known. Like, there was one morning I was doing a walk of shame down Sucky Street and there was Betty in full lecture. And you know that way you see somebody out of context and you're going, I know you and I don't know where I know you from. And it was an older guy in a tweed suit, satchel briefcase, and I'm kind of going, I know you and you know me, but I don't know how we know each other. And he gave me a wee wink and I realised it was Betty as the person that he was.
Off to work.
Off to work. So I think you'll be fine going through the university, mate.
I suppose,
Quite a few possibilities for a linguist in Berlin, I would think, to pick a few things up from
Abdul Al-Magrahi. When he was just like,
Shahid Baldy has some of the most fascinating slang.
Going back to the class, I go, I met the most interesting fellow the other day, Shahid Baldy. You never get what he had to say about perfect tense. Man, linguistics is so interesting. I don't know anything about linguistics. Like, I'm really interested in how accents form and stuff like that. I'd really like to go and study linguistics. Do you know anything about it?
Do you know what glossolalia is?
No.
Glossolalia is like the...
Lalia means tongue.
Yeah, it's like speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
It's like the thing that is supposed to have descended on the apostles. I don't know why this podcast is so Catholic, by the way.
Very
but it is.
biblical.
Yeah.
Just this week. Unless.
But, yeah, they start speaking in tongues. It's the gift of the Holy Spirit. Right?
How does that sound again?
It does sound like that. So there are various,
Sorry.
there are various kind of Christian cults and offshoots where people profess to speak glossolalia and they
Yeah.
speak in tongues and they, to our ears, jabber a lot of nonsense. But I think it'd be interesting if you could get a linguistics professor in Barrel as a drama series speaking to some analogue of Shahid Baldy who begins to speak in glossolalia. And then the linguistics professor starts to decode the word of God,
Yeah.
God's message to us from this troubled emissary.
I will give you cigarettes for sexual favours, I'd imagine, is most of
Why
what
is
he's
God
saying.
constantly offering me cigarettes for sexual favours?
Or
A
chocolate.
question I ask myself every day. That's interesting. Yeah, you never. I mean, I think you could get away with a kind of professor. I think we could all be lecturers of some sort.
What would you be lecturing in?
Comparing Thin Lizzy to criminals. Don't know, what would I be interested? I don't really have any areas. Maybe Japanese food. I can probably talk about Japanese food for about 45 minutes.
How to find a flawed lunch spot.
Terrible lunch spot.
That was good today. I think
It was
we
good today.
You know, had a lunch today together, and I picked it.
But if anything, it accentuated your
How-
talent.
Uh-huh.
How terrible some of your choices have been.
I can't think any really. That one and where was that? Stratford upon Avon.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was rough. But all the ones that we've had have been pretty decent. 'Cause we're sharing responsibility,
Collective
collective responsibility.
governance. That's what's
You
been
know.
going on at lunchtime
Mhm.
at the guillotine.
I'm not going to blame anybody for poor lunch spots because it has been my fault.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to blame anybody else.
You could be the professor of taking responsibility.
Listen, if you can have a minister for common sense, you can have a professor for taking responsibility.
Is she actually the Minister for Common Sense? What's she called? Esther McVeigh? It's got some other title. Surely it isn't that.
It's the anti-woke Sir or something,
me
isn't
see.
it? It's a kind of...
The actual title surely is something more formal.
I'm sure wokery is in the title. It's like in the title of it. Esther McVeigh.
Yeah.
What past life has she had?
She used to be on like ITV morning TV
Yeah.
As what?
as a presenter.
Of the
like-
weather?
No, like just a general
Right.
presenter.
And now she's became a...
politician.
So her actual title is Minister of State without portfolio.
The fuck does that mean?
Means you're on board as a random scapegoat. You're sort of ballast to be thrown off during a scandal.
Yeah. It's coming. I mean, it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming.
Aye, aye, aye.
Remember there was a wee spell in the 90s where like Tory MPs, male Tory MPs were getting caught like fucking panties and suspenders and football tops and prostitutes, and they're just fucking weird.
Good on them.
Just odd.
It's weird though. Sometimes I feel like people criticise Tories for the wrong reasons. Like stuff like that. They're like, oh, these Tories are up to no good with this deviant sexuality, and you're like, well, that's like the only thing I like about them. Or like when fucking George Osborne showed up and he was rattling, and I was like, that's the only time I've ever had any respect or solidarity with a politician. Is just, we've all been hungover. I remember when I used to work my dad's hairdressers, and I was just hungover, still drunk, washing an old woman's hair, just breathing cider breath into her face, and I just felt so bad. That's the only time I've ever felt any kind of kinship with a Tory, is when they're hungover or being a deviant.
It's always like, that's the nature of conspiracy, isn't it? Where they go QAnon or something, they're going, they're shagging dozens of kids. And you're like, no, they're killing thousands of kids. Like, if they were just shagging kids, it would be a much lighter picture.
Yeah. They're just killing thousands of them with poverty and hunger. Yeah. Nice.
And sometimes just bombs.
Bombs.
They're playing the long game.
I don't know. I just, whenever I hear about something like that, I'm just like, fucking fair play. Go, why not have... So I'm looking at who Esther McVeigh is, and she's not as terrifying as I thought she was going to be. The name Esther brings to mind. I was thinking, who was the name of that person who was Minister for Health?
Matt Hancock.
Before or after him? And she had like gravy in her jump. She was always smoking a cigar.
Teresa Coffey.
I was picturing Teresa Coffey.
Therese, is it Therese?
And I was like, that's kind of terrifying, but fair play.
Teresa.
But she was Minister for Work and Pensions, and she looked like the only time she'd ever done any work was on the toilet, basically.
Just curling them out.
How can you get her up there?
With a cigar.
With a cigar.
Yeah, it's not great.
She was very, very scary looking woman. Someone told me she was, at like a party, she'd be up all night, she'd keep kind of prop the bar open on the whiskies and the cigars and whatnot.
She's probably like a Winston Churchill regen.
Also a fundamental Catholic as well. Yeah, she was, yeah. She's big on the Catholicism, as is Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
He doesn't seem like a Catholic to me.
You're basing that on your kind of old school Irish West Coast of Scotland Catholic. No, you're talking...
What other Catholics are there? I know Italian Catholics. They're a different, type of guilt, etc. But what's this old Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Yeah.
Kind of, I like the symbolism, the rich, kind of ornate, almost the cult symbolism of Catholicism. Tony Blair converted to Catholicism.
Did he?
Yeah.
Because he worships blood and oil, which is the blood of the earth.
But also he had to do that after he left office, because we couldn't have a Catholic Prime Minister in this country up until 2013, 2014, till we changed the Act of Succession.
It was illegal to have a Catholic?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that was a good rule.
I mean, I'm not against it.
And then how did that get changed for? David Cameron?
No, when William and Kate got married, they wanted to change the Act of Succession so that if their first child had been Charlotte, had been the girl, she could have became queen, because obviously, Princess Anne, she was like the second child, but it went Charles and...
So it just got patched. It was like a software update, but it took like 400 years.
That's great. In Japan, I know I talk about Japan a lot, but in Japan, in a lot of kind of cultural stuff, you'll see...
My bank is phoning me.
Take it.
Have it, right?
Hello?
I will speak about Japan in a moment. Hey.
It's in 40 minutes.
Some of it's usable.
Some of it's fine.
Yeah. A lot of gay murder, but that seems to be a theme. This episode will be titled the pains of anal murder or something. Anal assassination will be the episode title.
Yeah, anal assassination. He's a bit of an anal assassin, if you know what I mean. I went to the wrong AA meeting.
What's your bag say?
Thought fraud was being committed on my account trying to book flights for the Euros.
A woman going to Germany.
This is outrageous.
I don't think so.
Back in the house, love. In the kitchen.
The sexist fraud detection. In Japan,
Fucking obsessed with Japan.
I'm really Japanned up these days. In Japan, they oftentimes in their culture and their kind of fiction and stuff, they'll use the symbolism of the Catholic Church the same way that we would use satanic symbols of like the pentagram or a goat's head. They'll use Jesus or the white robes or the papal. Sorry, I'm really Protestant. I don't know what it's even called.
So Protestant.
The papal.
Mitre.
The hat.
Yeah, it's a mitre.
The papal mitre. They'll use that as a symbol of kind of evil because they had missionaries come over, Catholic missionaries come over to Japan, and people were really scared of them because they were trying to change things.
So they should be.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me tell you firsthand, somebody that's been through that education system, I'd be fucking terrified.
But imagine you worshipped fucking Ryujin, the thunder god, and then all of a sudden
What do you
someone's...
mean, imagine?
What is the religion of Japan?
Shintoism.
Shinto Buddhism, isn't it? Yeah. But they have loads of...
But Buddhism's got lots of Catholic
What?
things. Oh, yeah.
Buddha?
Yeah,
He's a big fat guy who rubs his belly.
He was, in
Buddhism's got like the little, what Catholics would call the tabernacle and all the ringing of bells, and
It's a lot of bell work, yeah.
there's a lot of bell work in mass, just a standard mass.
Mm.
There's that incense they used to create a cloud
Yeah.
that they could, have wains out of.
Yeah. Were you ever an altar boy?
No, I did the readings.
Did you? Fuck.
What does that mean?
That's quite a big thing, isn't it?
Like, people from the congregation would get up to do readings from the Bible. There'd be 2 readings in a mass.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do one of them.
I think that's where your stand-up styles came from.
Exactly. My prophetic
Apathy.
apathy.
Prophetic
from
apathy. And St. Paul said to the Corinthians,
And
that's
one time I was a shepherd doing a reading at midnight mass, and it was like in the day it was midnight. Midnight mass was at midnight.
yeah.
And there
Is
was-
it not now?
No,
What?
because it was mental. There's like lots of like little wains and stuff, and everybody would
Drunks.
pass out. So the altar boys would pass out just on the regular. And looking back, probably all the dads and that were running a book on who would pass out. But
And it was always freezing.
yeah,
Midnight
it was
mass.
freezing, and they'd hit the deck like properly. Some guy would have clunk over with some incense or whatever, because it's by the time it finishes, it's like 1:30.
Yeah.
And I was dressed up as a shepherd, and only on arriving did I find that everyone else had made quite the effort with the old sewing machine, and I was wearing a tea towel and a pair of curtains.
Your mum was like, here, and you get this out the cupboard for you because you're this bloody shepherd. As if I've not got enough to do with Christmas Day tomorrow and putting out your presents and making a dinner.
What would the shepherd even have to say?
In this case, he's just doing a reading from the Bible.
Right.
But there were shepherds who were visited by an angel about the birth of Christ.
Right. So they'd be talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to denigrate any shepherds who are listening. You might have stuff to say. I don't want to belittle your
Theology.
theology or your work.
Be a shift being a shepherd, wouldn't it?
Don't sheep pretty much look after themselves?
Well,
but
the
mid-
sheepdog.
I don't think it
Does
was
a lot of the
sheep,
work.
though, was it? I mean, we're talking about the Middle East, it would have been goats.
I think they have sheeps.
I think it was just
They
a
don't
guy.
have sheep in the desert. What?
They might.
Are you even? No, they don't.
They may well.
A sheep wouldn't survive in the desert.
That's
You'd
why they
need
take
to
the wool off
shear
it.
it a lot.
That's why they shear it.
No, a goat. Think about it. Think about a goat. Skin the coarse hair, the big horns. A goat surviving. A sheep
Sheep
is not
have big
surviving.
horns as well, says he.
They're not
What
surviving.
always gets me, that story, the boy who cried wolf. And you're like, you were sending a wee boy out when there were wolves about? Of course he was crying wolf. He'd lost his mind through fear.
Yeah.
Big owls were
There's
swooping
wolves
at him.
about. Leave that wee boy out there to warn
To
us about
shout.
them. Yeah.
Do you know what? He's actually been bad at this job.
He made no effort. He turned up with a tea towel and a pair of curtains.
I hope the third time he does this, he gets ripped apart by a wolf. And then people remember that forever. Is that what happened?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, aye.
First 2 times there was no wolf. The wolf got him. Third time, the wolf did show up. And he said, there's a wolf here, and nobody believed him.
I think
I would come out any number of times I heard a child shouting wolf. Any number of times.
would you though?
Aye.
For your children, but for other people's children?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
You had to think about that now.
Well,
had a-
I think maybe he was just disliked in the community for different reasons. And they came up with the wolf story to like, oh, he's
They're
always
really-
lying. He's a big liar.
With a
Him.
really annoying voice. Wolf! Wolf!
Wolf! And people are like, I fucking hope a wolf gets him.
Get wee Hugo.
Don't listen to him.
Shit, Julie.
What a strange story.
They didn't even have sheep before that. It's just when they noticed the wolf, they got a couple of sheep in to attract the wolf to him.
He invented shepherdry.
Someone had to.
Someone had to bring it in. It was the annoying voiced child of Middle Eastern fairy tales.
Sheep will die in the desert. It doesn't matter. We just want them to attract the wolf.
Not according to Christopher.
I
He's
think
like,
they could thrive because, I mean, what's that rabbit, the Angolan rabbit or something that you get wool from?
Angora.
Angora is a rabbit fur. Where's that from? The desert.
Angora.
Oh, where is that? What's that like?
So your argument is because one thing is in one place, another thing must be in
might
another place.
be in a certain place. Ergo.
no.
Okay, well,
Sheep are not surviving in the Middle East.
I find it difficult to get into the mindset of a shepherd, though.
Anyway, there's no room at the inn. You've got to stay in the manger with the donkey. Pretty rough. It's a heavily pregnant woman that the old innkeeper has refused to make other
It's
arrangements
terrible, chat.
for. And nobody's gone, oh, I'll stay in the manger. So there's a heavily pregnant woman about to give birth.
I think it was that, if it was anything like today, you know, I'd imagine it was probably Tories who were staying there and they weren't too keen on a refugee taking their place.
Small business owner.
Yeah.
Sick.
Whole nation of little shopkeepers, you know.
So there's a donkey in there. 3 astronomers turn up. 3
Yeah. Wise men.
wise men
With terrible gifts.
with weird gifts to worship a baby. who's
Also
not
weird.
going to remember this. Joseph takes it all really well. Do you know the feast
Suspiciously
day?
well.
You know the Catholic feast day? Sorry, being a huge Catholic. There's a Catholic feast day of the Immaculate Conception.
Mm.
And that's on December the 8th. Either a really long pregnancy or a really short one. What other animals do you think live in places that they don't?
I just feel like lizards could, I feel like sheep could live wherever they want. They're quite hardy. But then, maybe I'm thinking about goats. Maybe I don't know the difference between a sheep and a goat. On some level.
What?
They're basically the same, aren't they? They've got faces, they've got hooves, they've got digestive systems. They're all mammals. I mean, goat fur as well could be shaved off and used, probably.
No, I think goat fur's probably too coarse.
Right.
Lovely goat's wool jumper you've got there.
You just coming out in a rash.
So much.
But then you could say that about goat's cheese and goat's milk.
I do say that about goat's cheese
Goat's
and
cheese
goat's
is
milk.
disgusting.
Goat's cheese is absolutely disgusting.
Why do they keep goats?
Company.
Well, I suppose that would be considered meat in certain parts of the world
Right,
where they
yeah.
don't have sheep, but they'll maybe still refer
Okay,
to
now I'm coming around to your
goats
sheep
as
don't live
lamb.
certain places stuff. Now I think about other cuisines and Africa and
They had a loud,
other
annoying
places.
voice, goats. Still do. And maybe that drowned out the boy who cried wolf's voice. So like, just surround him with goats.
He sounds like a goat. They'll say that he was a liar, but actually he was just harmonising with the bleats of a goat. Like Thin Lizzy's guitar work.
I don't
Goats are a bit more leapy than a sheep. Very rarely you'll see a sheep leap on something and balance at an unusual angle, whereas a goat,
Goats are also very angry.
Yeah.
Considerably more angry than sheep.
Sheep are angry as well.
Yeah, but not as angry.
I'm an Aries. I'm a sheep, essentially.
what's an Aries like?
Natural born leader.
Sheep.
Notorious for leading the pack.
A ram will lead a pack of sheep. If there is no ram, a dog will suffice.
I don't know how much time you've spent around sheep, but I would offer the counterpoint. No, it won't. Like a ram will stay off on its own and occasionally shag the sheep. It's not
Right.
really got any purpose or, leadership role.
The ram doesn't have a leader role?
No.
Not even in a bunch of rams? I'll look it up.
They don't have the desire to be leaders.
Neither do I. Ram.
That's why you need dogs.
Yeah, sheepdogs.
Corral them.
That's why you have a sheepdog and not a sheep ram.
Because they'll just shag them. You say, can you get those sheep in that pen? And they'll say, I'm going to have sex with that sheep.
Which
I don't even know if rams will be that enthusiastic about that.
Come on.
The rams, they'll be like, listen, we done it yesterday.
You read the fellow. You know, the black ram is tupping your white ewe.
Yeah.
They like to fuck goats.
Do they?
Rams, yeah.
Aries. I don't want to look up. I'm reading this book. I feel like the sheep chat's been exhausted.
Okay.
I'm reading Beast in the Shadows by Edogawa Rampo, who is a Japanese author called Taro Hirai, but he puts on the fake name of Edogawa Rampo because he wants, it's like a wee joke, because that's how you would say Edgar Allan Poe phonetically in Japanese. You would call it Edogawa Rampo.
Wicked.
So he's called himself that as a wee kind of pseudonym. Have you ever thought about having a pseudonym for your work?
A Japanese one? Certainly.
To make your worship of the Thunder God more complete.
I wish I had done it all under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
And with a different face.
Yeah.
I wish my whole career had been in disguise.
Well, you look at Blind Boy, who has an anonymous name and anonymous face, and he's really successful and weird, and he can kind of walk about his town and nobody knows who he is, and you go, that guy's got it right, doesn't he? But it seems good to have I had a podcast where he was interviewing Sami Zayn, who's a professional wrestler, and they were both discussing how great it is to have a mask and to be able to be famous as the mask and then take the mask off and walk into a room and nobody knows who you are, you know? Whereas you just stuck being Susan McCabe, the comedian.
Yeah, with a face that I wish I could remove.
I'd like the ability to turn other people blind.
You have that. It's called owning a knife. Wish I could pop people's eyes like the yolk of a boiled egg or a fried egg, probably. You ever thought about that? Just busting somebody's eye and watching it run down their
No,
face?
because I hate egg yolk.
I hate violence against eyes.
No, I'm not. That doesn't bother me. But egg yolk or runny eggs are just like disgusting.
On a similar theme, I have thought of getting the laser eye surgery. Because I think it's a lot of hassle with the old glasses. And it'd be good as I drift into semi-retirement and novel writing to be a bit more anonymous around Glasgow.
You
But
feel like
do
your
I wanna-
glasses are part of your identity.
Yeah, they're a part of my
Can I
they're
ask?
part of my identity. But I don't know. I want to get my eyes fried out.
Hold on. How much hard work is involved in glasses?
Well, as you get older, a bit more, because I can now see like the TV and stuff with the glasses on, but I can't read with the glasses on
I
anymore.
have that with my
So-
glasses.
They need to come on and off a lot.
So I got the training today, so I had my glasses on because I can't read the boards without my specs. And I need my glasses to read the boards and to look at the TV and for driving. But I can't read my phone with my glasses.
Yeah, so-
So all I really need to do is lift my glasses off my face, which I'll be honest, isn't that hard, right? I don't think it's worth getting your eyes burnt out for. And also, laser treatment is apparently not permanent. It's not a
It's
permanent
not
fix.
permanent. It works less well over 50. And I had a friend who had it done, and he said, it's great, I'd absolutely recommend it. And I was like, what was it like? And he was like, it was, it's just been brilliant. I was on Valium for like 3 weeks. I mean, it's the worst pain I've ever had in my life.
Oh, it hurts.
Yeah, oh, it really hurts.
Yeah.
Well, they set fire to your eyes.
Right. In a very controlled way.
In a
Yeah,
laser, with a
this-
laser.
But it doesn't matter how controlled it is. Eyes and
Fundamentally.
fire are supposed to be kept apart.
But if you described dentistry in that way, oh, mate, it's great. All that happens is they rip part of the skeleton that you are out the hole.
It's
in
more
your
like
mouth.
if they set fire to your gums.
I think my dentist did do that last time.
I don't think you should get it.
I'm not going to.
No.
It just seems like it ain't going to work and it's going to be a lot of pain.
Ain't not going to work. Is it famously like doesn't work? Like the people
Sometimes
say
it
that.
doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
It starts to, your eyes start to get worse again sooner for some people, particularly if you're over 50.
Right.
And also, is that thing of like the doorbell goes and you turn around and they've just sizzled your optic nerve.
Or like if
Yeah, you really can't. You really gotta be pretty still. while
if
they're
a
lasering
cat
your eyes.
ran through the room while it was happening, he might go, oh, and then all of a sudden
You're blind.
your eyebrows are on fire.
Yeah.
And your brain's
At
melted.
best, at best.
You don't want a guy giving you the laser eye surgery who was like drinking last night or didn't get a good sleep. And
I mean, you say that. I used to work with electricians every day who would be working on like a big, massive main panel board or a like distribution board, and they would be like, oh, I can't shut this board down unless I stay after 5, so I'm just going to do it live. And you're like, you've had 4 pints at lunchtime. And they'd be like, oh, just bits of copper wheeling about. And you're like, somebody's going to die today. And this is when I was an apprentice. And they were like showing me things. And I'm like, I have learned how this is not to be an electrician. That's what I've learned to do.
I think if you were a laser eye surgeon, you'd have to drink as well.
Yeah.
People would be like, do you want to drink? What are you doing tomorrow? And you'd be like, setting fire to people's eyes. Yeah, give us one. You know.
in Metal Gear Solid, the video game by Hideo Kojima, you're a sniper in it, and you have a little bit of a shake, but if you smoke a fag in the game, your hand gets a lot steadier. Is that also the case for electricians?
Oh, aye.
Yeah.
Oh, there's many. I mean, back in the day before the old smoking ban and all that, a lot of them would just be working with a permanent cigarette.
Yeah.
Like, working, smoking, not taking the cigarette out of their mouth, and then, like, taking it to put it out, and then they would just light another one.
It's a muscle relaxing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not to be... Big Tobacco's paying me to say favourable things about it.
Imagine that was the only ads we could get. Start smoking.
Do you know what helps me think about anal assassins? It's the refreshing taste of
Tobacco.
Lucky Strike cigarettes.
Surely someone wants to bond with their anal assassin branding. Perhaps Alcoholics Anonymous.
Listen, I don't know where sheep live, but what I do know is that American Spirit cigarettes make me
relax.
after a long hard day of podcasting. I love to just put my cowboy hat on and smoke a Marlboro Red.
Fair.
Just like to say I don't. smoke anymore.
That is a very strong cigarette, a Marlboro Red.
Marlboro Red is like,
That was everyone back in the day, though, because all that other stuff only came in the 90s, where you get like Camel Lights and Marlboro Lights and all that stuff.
they stopped being able to call it a Marlboro Light because it implied that there was some kind of health benefits. So by the time I started smoking, it was Marlboro Gold. But if you said Marlboro Gold, they didn't know what you were talking about. So you'd have to say Marlboro Light, and then they would turn around and go, okay, Marlboro Gold. But then sometimes they hadn't heard of that. It's very confusing.
I was never a Marlboro smoker. I used to be a Regal smoker.
I don't know about what it says about you to smoke different things. I don't have that kind of social awareness. So sometimes I think the first time I told you I was smoking Marlboro Lights, you were like, you would. What is it? Is it a cigarette for wanks?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Marlboro
Marlboro was proper nihilism. Marlboro was like death cult. Here we go. Bring it on. I
Aye.
want to die.
Marlboro Light was a kind of Bale and Sebastian cigarette.
Is that the two options you can have?
I see Bell and Sebastian as more silk cut, but closing up the holes.
Aye. There was Silk Cut, which was like, what's even the point? There was Kensit's Club, which was a kind of council housing scheme.
There's a proper club super king that was like you've been
Massive.
shot in the face with an arrow. It was like 2 feet long.
I smoked some Super Kings once and it just didn't look right.
Used to have coupons
Took
as well.
ages to finish as well. You'd be like, fuck's sake, everybody else has went back inside.
I was a Regal, which was just a kind of middle of the road cigarette, which was of the same house as Embassy number 1.
Right.
Embassy Regal, Embassy number 1.
It's what
Embassy
people would
Red.
call cleaners fags back in the day.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it was the sort of thing a
Cleaner
cleaner
would
would
do?
smoke.
Like
Kensit's Club was like a kind of binman. I get what I mean. That was like hardcore.
I really hope
didn't
we
put
get some
that in the
advertising.
If you went, it was the type
Are you a
of
binman?
woman outside the bingo would smoke a Kensit's Club.
are you Oscar the Grouch? If so, try Kensington.
Kensit's.
Kensit's?
Kensit's
I've never
Club.
heard of that one, Puff.
Used to have they used to have vouchers in them, cigarette vouchers, and people used to save the vouchers and then go to the shop, which in Glasgow was at the top of Cambridge Street across for the Hilton, and go and buy like a Teasmade or a toaster.
That guy we met at lunch, I don't know why I'm bringing up, that I went to college with, he was the first person I knew who smoked Camels.
Oh, disgusting! I'd have put you at my house for that
Why?
because they are disgusting.
Really? Yeah, a Camel cigarette is
There's a really
disgusting.
bad smell off them as well.
Oh,
Like,
yeah?
worse than a normal cigarette.
It's funny, isn't it? Because obviously all cigarettes smell bad, but if it's not your brand, it's horrific.
Yeah, Marlboro were guilty of that. Like a Marlboro cigarette was like, jeez.
Yeah.
Marlboro Red really stink.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Nate. In politics, we often say people need to build a broad coalition, right? And as we continue to become more individualistic, people say, well, it's difficult to get a coalition together. People are too polarised and all that. And I would say, look at the coalition that has been built by rolling cigarette tobacco. Because there is everybody in there, from hippie bongo player through to washed up professional snooker player,
Through to homeless
through
man.
to homeless man, through to like any kind of, it's like a huge coalition of maniacs,
All smoke a roll-up cigarette.
hash heads.
It's really just people on a budget and people who are pretending they're on a budget.
Yeah.
You get
You know?
you get people that are clearly wealthy and from money who smoke roll-ups because it's kind of interesting. For put a little tip in it.
Fucking Akira Kurosawa double bill and then a mission smoking a roll up outside. It's like, come on, to fuck, right? Shut up. You can afford a 20 tech. Yeah, the rolly thing. I've got such a weak stomach. I just weighty when I smoke a rolly. I've genuinely ran out of, when I was younger. I'd
You're
run,
so fragile in a lot of ways.
I'm a dandelion.
What, the white puffy one or the yellow one?
Both. When I'm drunk, I turn into the puffy one. You know, I remember being on a night out and running out of fags, and I said, "Can you roll me a cigarette to somebody?" And they went, "Yeah." And then I had like 2 puffs, and I waited in a bin, man. You know, just threw it up in a bin.
Did you go outside for this roll up to smoke it? So there's maybe a thing there. Were you drinking?
Yeah.
So you've been drinking, then you've hit the fresh air, and then you've lit the cigarette.
Is that a scientific thing to have the wind hit you?
I love that though. That's a real Scottish thing, isn't it? Of like taking multiple substances and blaming fresh air.
Aye, because the wind.
Do you know what it was?
Outside, and you went, "Oh,
It was the fresh air.
Watch out! Don't breathe.
if I'd stayed in that pub for another 12 hours, I would have been fine."
I had 3 pints, 2 different types of tobacco, and the villain of the story was oxygen.
First time I properly waited, I went round to a friend of mine's house as a student, and they were playing Dungeons and Dragons, which I'd never played, and they were smoking dope, which I'd never smoked. And I got
That was a big day for you.
I got really high whilst attempting to cast a spell that hurled a bishop into a river and drowned him. And I was successful. And then I pretty much passed out in a deep state of crisis.
Life's been downhill since then.
There's quite a
It was
lot to
it
unpack
was a real
there.
peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a lot to unpack there, isn't there? Just like, I just threw a bishop. Just stoned out my head and I threw a bishop. It's like all your Catholic guilt, everything was just coming to the fore.
Cast it off. A reverse baptism. You know? Once upon a time, a priest was putting you in the water, and now you're putting the fucking
Bishop
in
the
the
priest's
water.
boss.
killing him through a baptism.
I've often thought what John the Baptist was up to. He was holding people in the water, and it was kind of like the Vedanta part of Hinduism. So, you know, a bit where Jesus says, you know, look in the rocks, I'm there. We're all part of the same creation. That must have been what it was, because if you hold someone in a river, and the river's flowing round you, look, you're part of this. You know, but sadly, what he was actually saying was undocumented. Pure speculation.
You think he was a Hindu?
Well, some of Jesus is quite like the Vedanta in Hinduism.
What's that?
It's like the esoteric part of Hinduism. So like the Vedanta is to Hinduism what the Kabbalah is to Judaism.
Right.
And at its heart, the idea is that the universe is one. It's all part of the same thing. Matter, life is all one unit, kind of playing a game of hide and seek with itself.
Is that not scientific truth? That we were all stardust at one point?
You're just an instinctive Hindu.
People have said that to me before. They think, you've got a hint of the instinctive Hindu about you. Yeah, that sounds good to me. A lot of the...
It'd be a lot more simpler, wouldn't it? Life would be just easier if we just all thought like that, wouldn't it? I think that's
That there
the
was
message that we should try and get out in this podcast called Here Comes the Guillotine.
We're all one.
Obviously we are all one, right? But if I have to not eat beef for that to be the truth, I don't know if I'm willing to swap the worship of the one for burgers, you know? If you're not allowed to kill cows in Hinduism, are you?
I think nobody is less qualified to discuss the ins and outs of Hinduism than us.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. That's it this week for Here Comes the Guillotine. We'll be back next week with more anti-authoritarianism and chummy laughter.
You can get all the episodes of Here Comes the Guillotine on Global Player right now. Search for Global Player on your App Store or go to globalplayer.com.